Hi, I'm Professor Scott Fries, and welcome to the online version of CMPS 147, which is the Introduction to Computer Science. In this course, we'll be learning how to write C++ code and kind of giving you a little bit of an overview of what the computer field is all about, how computers work, and how to start thinking like a programmer. And this is the introductory course for a computer science major, but it's also geared towards students who are just trying to get a little bit of exposure to programming. So it's geared towards beginners. You don't need to have a lot of experience or any experience really at all doing any programming. Because this is an online course, all of the lectures have been videotaped. Most of them have just been recorded through my slides, and we'll go through the slides today. If you're accessing this, it means you've got onto Moodle. That's going to be where where all the lecture content will be, where you'll see the assignments and submit your assignments, and also how I'll communicate your grades to you. So in this recording, I'm really just going to go through how the course is going to work, what the procedures we're going to follow, what are my policies. And then in the next few recordings, if you go through Moodle, you'll start to see more of an overview of the topics and what are we going to be, exactly what are we going to be doing throughout the course of the semester. But before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit about the computer field. Let me switch over to my slides here. And the computing field is actually very broad. We've got computer science, but we've also got computer engineering, software engineering, and information technology. And so computer science tends to be very theoretical and very math-oriented. It's about trying to come up with algorithms to make programs efficient, how to use memory most efficiently. Believe it or not, we call the major computer science, but actually that probably isn't the most accurate term for what especially this type of a course is. Computer engineering is a very important field in computing. That deals with more of the digital logic, the hardware. How do you build a CPU? How do you build an actual computing system? In Module 1, we're going to talk actually a lot about that to kind of get an idea of how does a computer work at all. But that also is not exactly the focus of this course. We're not going to be dealing with a lot of hardware-related issues and a lot of circuitry and electrical engineering type topics. Software engineering, as the slide says, is probably the more closely related subfield of computing that this course really covers. And software engineering is all about programming. It's about programming large-scale applications, although we'll start pretty small scale. Certainly, we do employ algorithms and we do use a bit of math, but it's not particularly geared towards theory. It's more geared towards real practical experience writing programs. And I think generally that's what most people will at least have their first exposure to computing in. Information technology, or IT, is yet another subfield. That's again probably not really the focus of the computer science major. It's not the focus of this course. That's more about maintaining networks, setting up networks, probably security as well. But it tends to be a little less programming oriented. We're going to learn specifically C++. Which is one of a family of very similar languages that dominate the computer science field today. This would include things like C, C++, Java, C#, JavaScript. They're all languages that actually look very similar to each other. I would almost consider them sort of different dialects. So as we learn C++, think of it as sort of learning the English language in one region of the United States, and then potentially you could probably move somewhere else and things would sound a little different. People would have a slightly different way of saying things, but you'd get by, and that's sort of what you're going to get with C++. You'll be able to move to these other languages fairly quickly after I'm learning this. So in terms of our course goals, my goal is for by the time that you work your way through all of these videos, you've done all the assignments, First, you're going to have a real good understanding of how computers work at a very basic level. One of my primary goals for this course is to demystify how computers work and how we can do all of these different amazing things with computers using fairly kind of rudimentary machines and languages. You're going to master essentially the procedural portion of C++. C++ is kind of a language split between a procedural language and an object-oriented language. And those two terms don't mean anything, probably don't mean anything to you just yet. But they will if you continue in computer science. But we're going to be focused on the procedural part, which is variables, control flow, functions, and arrays. Those are the big topics that we'll be covering throughout the semester. You will begin to use objects, so strings and files, towards the end of the semester. That's more of the object-oriented portion of C++, and it's really, this course, at least at Ramapo, is the Introduction to Computer Science 1, or the Introduction to Computer Science is really a two-part course. There's 147 and there's CMPS 148, which delves into the object-oriented features of C++ in more depth. So this course is, I guess, ultimate goal is to prepare you for that second course in computer science, wherever you might be taking that. Course policies. So I'm gonna start with let me move my slide a little bit. Okay, got everything in line there. I want to start with maybe the part where I might get the most questions. It is an online course, and I certainly understand that most of you are taking this with the intent that you're not going to come on campus and you're not going to come, obviously, attend physical classes. You are required to come to campus twice, though, for this course to take the exams. So you do have to sit for the exams. There's a midterm scheduled for July 24th, and there's a final exam for the last day of the semester on August 7th. There'll be 2 time slots for these exams, and if I find if the majority of you can't make it during these times, but some other time works, we might be able to move these around a little bit. But my plan right now is to have the time slots on both days to be 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And you would only choose one of those time slots to appear for the exam. And I'll give you more information via email about the location. Now, if you're taking this class and you're actually quite a distance away from campus, you've scheduled some sort of vacation or if there's some significant reason why you cannot attend class, as long as it's a documentable excuse or reason, I'll definitely work with you. So we'll figure something out. At the worst case, you will absolutely be able to take the exam. It should not be a reason why you wouldn't be able to complete the course or anything like that. But we're going to shoot for getting you on campus those 2 days. And again, I'll talk a lot more about what'll be on the midterm exams and all that kind of stuff through email with you. Actually, before I continue off this slide, one thing about this is if you do need special accommodations, if these dates are not going to work for you or you're not going to be able to come to campus at all, please make sure that you review the syllabus. There's a deadline, July 14th, to contact me. I can't make accommodations for you like on July 23rd and when you say you can't make it for the midterm. If you reach out now, if you reach out in the next couple of weeks, I will definitely work with you. But please do plan ahead and make sure that you tell me that there's an issue so we can work something out. A few of you have emailed me already about the textbook. The campus bookstore has it. Amazon has it. The textbook is required, so it's Introduction to Programming with C++. If you're taking Computer Science 2 at Ramapo, this will probably, if you take it with me at least, this will be the same book that is used. I don't know whether this is the best price you can get. This is not an advertisement for Amazon. I just wanted to show you the picture of the book. The book, I'm specifying the 3rd edition. If you happen to get an older edition, that's going to be fine. Although I do list the specific section numbers in many of the lecture slides where the topic is discussed in the textbook. Those section numbers probably will not line up perfectly in the second and the first editions, but the content is the same. So you'll be always able to find the information. There's no new information between the third and the first edition. So that's perfectly fine. And if you have any confusion about where I am in the lecture slides with regard to your book, I'm pretty sure I have all the editions of this textbook, so you can send me an email and I can help you sift through that. So please do get that quickly. I think if you order it, you can get next day shipping on Amazon. You can come to campus and get the book. Please make an effort to get that textbook right away. Again, if you're accessing this video, you've already got onto Moodle, so that's good. Module00, remember, is where you're going to get all of your content. Moodle, regular www.moodle.rampo.edu is the current college version of Moodle. We're going to shift to Module00 in the fall, and the summer course, at least my summer course, is using the newer version. When you log in, I know this is too small to see, but when you log in, you'll have a listing up at the top with syllabus information, the course description, course organization, which that second entry there, I'd really recommend that you read very closely. In fact, I'd recommend that you go ahead and read all of the introductory material very closely right now as soon as possible. So you can get a good feel for what the course is going to be like. I'm really only discussing it briefly here. But all of the content for the course will be through this website. All the programming code, all the lecture videos, the lecture slides, the assignments will all be housed underneath this site. I mentioned that we've got these lecture slides. I'll call them modules. And I've organized the course into 31 separate modules. And each module on Moodle, you can see that there's a link for the lecture slides, which is just the regular Google presentation slides. I also have made a recording of basically what you're watching right now of each individual module, along with live programming and everything that you would see in a normal face-to-face course. So those probably are going to be your primary reference, and they typically run between 20 and 40 minutes. Most of them are under 30 minutes, actually. Certainly, as you're playing them, pause them, rewind them, all that kind of stuff, especially when I'm doing code. So it might take you a little bit longer than a half hour to get through those individual videos. For each video and for each lecture, with the exception of the first few, I've listed the section numbers in the textbook, and I encourage you to make sure that you're reading the textbook with the lecture material. Keep up with your reading with the textbook. Also, source code for all programming examples. So I've done, I think there's about 35 or 36 programming examples that are uploaded to Moodle right now. Each and every one of them are also uploaded as raw source code, so you don't have to kind of copy down what you see me doing in the lecture videos. You can just download the entire zip file and get all of the programs all at once, and you can review those. Moodle's been organized into 5 separate weeks, and so the semester lasts 5 weeks, and I've grouped each module into a specific week. The course sort of starts out a little slower. I haven't loaded up the first week with a bunch of modules. You'll find that the second and the third week are covering a lot of material. And then the second, third, and probably fourth week are covering quite a bit of material. The fifth week is a little less because that's when we're going to have the final exam. I urge you to try to stay on schedule. It is really crucial, especially if this is the first time that you've been taking an online course. The main challenge of taking an online course is staying current and keeping up with the pace of the course. So at the end of every week, you're going to have labs and you're going to have homeworks due, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. You want to make sure that you've gone through all the modules and you've mastered those topics by the end of each week that they're specified under. In fact, I would kind of treat that as a minimum, especially in the beginning. If you can go a little faster and you can make a little headway through and get a little ahead of the game, I'd highly encourage you to do that, because the course does actually speed up quite a bit after the second and third week. So try to move ahead as fast as you can through the content, and certainly, anytime you have any questions, you're gonna want to email me right away. So I mentioned labs. Normally in a face-to-face or a regular lecture setting, I would take time out during the class time to do these labs, and um, there'll be a total of 13 small programs. Calling them labs, they're really no different than homework assignments in an online version like this, but they are smaller. They're geared to take you about an hour, maybe, probably under an hour, hopefully. Some of them might take a little bit longer. They are specifically designed to target the skills taught in the preceding modules. So you probably go through 3 or 4 different modules, and then there'll be a lab at the end of one of those slides. You should try to work through. I have not posted the solutions for the labs. I won't post the solutions for the labs. I want you to try to work through those yourself. Certainly email me with any questions you have while you're coding them. But make sure that you've gone through the modules first. Don't skip right to the labs. You want to make sure that you've seen how to accomplish all of these tasks. Everything done in the labs will be directly relatable to the preceding modules. I'm going to talk about in a moment how do you upload source code, and that's actually some more details will be in Module 2. So I encourage you to kind of move forward and read and listen to all those modules soon. But you're going to be uploading source code, probably a lot of source code during the course of these next 5 weeks. You'll typically have 2 to 4 separate, or probably 2 to 3 labs each week that are going to be due at the end of the week on Saturday. I don't really anticipate. I'm not trying to make you work on a Saturday or anything, but I'm giving you the full week to complete them. So you'll upload them once a week, and you'll complete all the labs from that week, and along with the homework assignment as well. If you log on to Moodle and you look down on the third entry, there's a labs and homework policy and schedule link. If you click on that, that'll give you a lot more detail about what the labs are, how they work, how I'm going to grade them, and it'll also have links to each lab assignment, and it'll give you the due dates for every single lab. So make sure you go into that document, labs and homework, policy and schedule, and look at that in detail. Again, there's nothing wrong with working ahead. So if you know that you're going to be away, or you're going to have you're going to have a busy week at some point with work, look ahead, work ahead. All the labs, all the homework are already posted. The content is completely loaded on Moodle, so you can basically work as fast as you wish, and you can work at whatever pace you want to work at. Homework, which again, they're all sort of homework for you, but the homework assignments are designed to be a little bit longer. They're probably going to take you 2 to 3 hours each. In the beginning, you might find that they take even longer than that. There'll be 4 of them. Each will be due at the same time as the labs. So basically, on every Saturday at 8 a.m., meaning basically you've got all Friday night to complete this stuff. Every Saturday at 8 a.m., your labs for that week and the associated homework will be due. So the first homework assignment is going to be due on 7/19. So you got a little bit of runway here for the first week. The last homework will be due on a Thursday, just because the semester ends on 8/7. And again, just like I said, they're all posted now, so you can kind of start taking a peek as to what we're going to look at. There is no way, though, if you haven't programmed before, don't spend any time stressing about the fact that homework 3 or 4 looks difficult. Everything in this course builds, and so by the time you get to homework 1, you'll look back, or by the time you get to homework 4, you'll look back at homework 1, and you won't believe that it took you as long as it might have taken you. It'll look a lot easier by then. In computer science, the different chapters, the different homework assignments, they're not different topics per se. This is not like a biology course where you're just going to learn about different topics and you can kind of safely, pick up with a given chapter perhaps, even though you might have struggled on a previous chapter. Computer science builds. Every topic kind of leads to the next. And so again, that's one of the reasons why we have to try really hard to keep on schedule. due to the condensed schedule, and also mainly to make sure that you are keeping up to date and keeping pace. I don't accept late assignments. So you have all the assignments right now, you should be able to manage that time. If you are having problems with any of the assignments, again, email me the questions that you have, any problems, email me the code as an attachment, and I'll talk a little bit again in Module 2, Part 2 actually. The recording will go over what is source code and all that kind of stuff. But as you get into these, anytime you have problems, you want to let me know immediately. And you want to get in touch with me so we can have some back and forth, and I can give you some feedback so you can get these labs and homeworks done on time. If you read the policy page on Moodle about labs and homeworks, you'll find that the labs are sort of lightly graded. Basically, I'm looking to make sure that you've done an honest effort to learn the topic. Homeworks are graded a little bit more carefully. They're scrutinized a little bit more, and they count quite a bit more towards your semester grade. So the labs themselves are sort of kind of a lower pressure type situation where you're just going to get practice, and I want to make sure that I see what you've been doing and be able to give you feedback. And for homework and labs that are due on Saturdays, typically I will get a grade back to you by that Monday, by the evening, the following Monday. Submitting assignments in Moodle, again, if you have any questions about submitting an assignment, or if you're not sure whether it went through, always just shoot me an email, and you can even send me the email with the source code just as a backup to make sure that I get it. But my preferred approach is that, of course, you submit it through Moodle. Whatever assignment that you're trying to do, you're just going to scroll down. You're going to click on it, so you can click on Lab 1 over on the left. Once you click on that, you would add a submission. You'd browse to get your source code, and again, Module 2, Part 2, the video recording, will have a lot of detail about how do you actually find your source code, what is it that you're supposed to be submitting, so don't worry too much about that just yet. And make sure then, of course, that you save your changes at the end. That's pretty important. And so, you can submit these at any time during the course of the semester. They're all open for submission now. But the submissions will turn off after their due date, so you won't be able to upload them after the due date specified. In terms of required software, at home you can basically do whatever, you can use whatever you want. C++ can be developed on Windows, on OS X, so a Mac, or Linux, or pretty much any platform. That said, I will be asking you to use Visual Studio on lab machines for the midterm and final exams. I'll be using Visual Studio in all the lecture videos. So I want you to familiarize yourself with Microsoft Visual Studio. If you are near campus and you can come to campus and program, that's fine. All the lab machines have Visual Studio installed. But I also provided very detailed instructions on how to download Visual Studio for free on your own Windows machine. Visual Studio only works on Windows, however. So if you have a Mac, if you have a Linux machine, either you're going to have to figure out a way to get Windows on that as well, which is not terribly difficult, but will require a little bit of technical know-how. Or you might have to learn how to learn another platform on a Mac or Linux, and there are options. So of course, on all of those platforms, there are programs similar to Visual Studio which will allow you to write C++ code, and I can help you if that becomes an issue for you. Grading and how the letter grades will be assigned. Labs. So there's 13 labs. They're in total worth 10% of your grade. I'll grade them on a scale of 1 to 10. And again, if you've done a reasonable job, you're going to get an 8 or a 9, even if there's some errors. If it does everything it says it's going to do, you'll definitely get a 10. My goal is not to make the labs an onerous task. It's to make sure that you're programming on your own and working through the problems yourself. There's 13 of them, 10% of your grade, so you can you can see that they're actually worth less than 1% each. towards a semester grade. Homeworks are worth 20%. There's 4 of them, so each one you can think of as being worth 5% of your total grade. Those will be scrutinized a little bit more. There'll be a lot more granularity. They're graded on a 100-point scale. The midterms and the final, the midterm is 30%, the final is 40%. They will be cumulative in all cases, so the midterm exam will cover everything up to whatever modules are scheduled for that week of the 24th. The final exam will be comprehensive. That will include live programming, so you will have to be able to program in the lab setting to complete those exams. Individual exams aren't curved. That's not to cause any panic. I will adjust things, and the final letter grades will be graded on a curve. If you look at the syllabus, I've given you the minimums. So for instance, if you get a 70, you're guaranteed a C-, but you may actually get higher than that based on how everybody else has done. So I'll always post the distribution for the midterms and the finals, so you can get an idea not just how you did, but how everybody else did, so you can kind of gauge yourself against that. Communication. Communication is the most important aspect of all of this. To be able, again, if you've taken an online course before, you know that probably the biggest challenge is time management. You need to stay on top of your content. I'm here. I will respond to emails. I have office hours. I'm in ASB 406. I say until further notice because the campus is a bit under construction right now, and I'm probably going to be moving to the new science building, and when that happens, I will let you know. Might not happen until after the end of this session. My tentative schedule is Monday and Thursday, 12 to 1. I say tentative because I'm going to be off campus a few of these weeks. My advice to you is, if you want to come into office hours, even if you're planning on coming in on the announced days and times, email me first. Make sure that I'll be around, and make sure, and so I can make sure that I'll be around. Or we can set up any appointment. So I'll make a point it'll be possible to have some office hours in the later afternoon, evenings. I'll work with you to be able to help you during an office hour session. Just email me and we'll make an appointment. So keep in constant communication with me. Check your email, log into Moodle constantly. I'm going to post Moodle announcements, but I'll also be emailing you directly. You'll probably receive maybe 2 to 3 emails from me a week about what lectures you should be looking at, what's going to be due, and make sure that you contact me again whenever you have any questions. I think I've already said that all the content will be on Moodle. So with that, I'll turn you loose on the rest of the content. I hope you enjoy the course. If you have any concerns about accessing Moodle, if you have any concerns about any of the technology being used, the first 2 modules, or the first really 3 modules, are geared at getting you started at learning how to use things like Visual Studio. Now is the time to ask. Don't fall behind. Get back in touch with me quickly. Good luck.